Shalom. I want to give all the praise, all the glory, all the honor unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakah, Kodash. Double honors goes out to the elder apostles of Great Millstone for teaching me the truth. Also, I want to acknowledge all the Akyam who are pushing the truth with sincerity throughout the four corners of the earth. Shalom to the elect of the nation of Israel. And this is Shabai from GMS Denver Camp. And through the Spirit, I'm going to do a quick lesson, Job, the second chapter. It's going in on, the title of it in the blue letter, it says, Job loses his health. Okay, so I went in on that word health. Let me see. Because that word health, it goes back to being made whole, like wholeness. And it also ties in with being holy, the word holy. Okay, let me see here, health. It says the word health, this is on an AI overview for health. The word health comes from the Old English health, meaning wholeness, soundness, being well, stemming from Germanic roots related to whole, hail, and holy. The ultimate from a Proto-Indo-European root, kailo, meaning whole, uninjured, or good omen. So yeah, health goes back to holy, like sacred holy, separate holy, right? So let's read Job chapter 2. It says, Again, there was a day when the sons of the Most High came to present themselves before Yahweh, and Satan came also among them to present himself before Yahweh. Okay? So every time you see here, every time the men of the Lord, the Israelites, the sons of God, every time we show up on the scene, you always have the wicked show up on the scene. Satan, right? Like that's why when you go to camp, you go to camp, and then, a lot of times, right when you get to camp, Satan or people who are in the spirit of the left, they'll show up, right? Like this past weekend, we went to camp. Actually, it was Friday, right? We went to camp, and as soon as we set up, or we always set up, you had this whole congregation of the wicked, right? Which was in the form of a Issachar Catholic ritual ceremony, right? They were honoring the Queen of Heaven, which you're not supposed to honor the Queen of Heaven, right? You go read Jeremiah 44. So anyway, this same thing, happens all the time. When the sons of the Most High present themselves, then you have Satan show up on the scene as well. And that's what happened with us Friday. Like I said, we went to go prophesy on the highways, in the hedges, street corners, chief place of concourse. And right as we set up, lo and behold, you had this wicked congregation have like a mini parade go right in front of the camp. And that was Satan, right? Well, it was Yahweh, because he orchestrates everything. And as you're about to learn in this chapter, Satan answers to Yahweh, okay? Anything that Satan does, he's got to get clearance from the Most High, okay? Verse 2, it says, And Yahweh said unto Satan, From whence comest thou? And Satan answered Yahweh and said, From going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it. And that's that wicked spirit of Satan, right? He's everywhere on the planet Earth, devouring souls, devouring the weak, devouring the 2/3. Okay. And Yahweh said unto Satan, hast thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and upright man, one that feareth the Most High. And when you read this word perfect, perfect goes back to 100%. That's why when we're out there teaching, or you've heard our elders say that GMS has 100% truth, and why is that? It's because we are perfect in the spirit, just like our forefather Job. Now, we're not perfect in the flesh, but we're perfect in the spirit. When it comes to these scriptures, we are perfect. Okay, we don't break things down wrong. We don't teach unsound doctrine. No, the spirit of Yahweh B'Shem Yahshai dwells with the members of GMS, starting out with our elders, okay? And it says, and Yahweh said unto Satan, hast thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and upright man, one that feareth the Most High, and escheweth evil, and still he holdeth fast his integrity, although thou movest me against him to destroy him without cause. All right. So let's look up that word integrity. We know what it means, but let's look it up. Well, you know what? Let's go to the... Okay, that's cool that I looked it up, because it says the word, it means the same thing as health. You know, when you go to the deep words of it, you know, when you dive deep into these words, like this is what GMS does, you know, we go into the etymology. Every brother in GMS goes into the etymology of words. So the word integrity comes from the Latin integer, meaning whole, complete, entire, right? So hey, that's you know, that's cool that came up like that, because integrity, when you look up integrity and you look up the word health, they both come up as meaning whole or complete. And I just got done telling you that is the you know, GMS, we have the whole truth. We're the holy men of Yahweh B'Shem Yahshai. And remember that word holy, it also means separate. And we're separate from these other camps because why? Because we have a perfect doctrine. We have 100% truth. Okay? I see the phone chimed on that. Call Allah Yahweh B'Shem Yahshai. So, a perfect and upright man, one that feareth the Most High and showeth evil, and he holdeth fast his integrity, meaning his wholeness, right? And another well, this was actually the etymology, so I didn't get into the meaning. Let's see. Let me read the rest of this, because just to get deeper into this word integrity, okay? Because Job was a man of integrity, just like all of us should be men of integrity. If we're in this ministry, if we're in this truth, we should be like Job, our forefather, and have integrity. Be men of integrity, okay? Meaning men of wholeness, completeness, okay? It says, evolving to describe a state of wholeness, soundness, or undivided completeness, both physically, and then it says like sound armor, right? We're supposed to put on the armor of Yahweh B'Shem Yahshai when you're in this ministry. It says both physically and morally, unbroken character, honesty, and sincerity. Well, how did I open this up? I said all the men who push this truth with sincerity. And who does that? The men of GMS. It says it signifies being true to one's values, an unbroken completeness, or an uncorrupted moral principle, appearing in English around the 15th century. All right. Integritas in Latin, the noun form of being, meaning completeness, soundness, integrity. Whole, complete, untouched, sound. You see? So it says the word integrity. It says here the evolution of the meaning of this word, integrity. It says early use, it was like physical or structural. It says initially referred to physical soundness or being in an original perfect state, like unblemished armor. So that's how we are to be. We're supposed to be unblemished. Like, and who was the unblemished? Yahweh Shai. He was that perfect sacrifice with no blemishes, right? So we are supposed to be, that's what we have to strive for each and every day, is to be like our big brother Yahweh Shai. Okay. Moral use, it says, this is in the 16th century. It expanded to describe soundness of moral principle, uprightness, honesty, sincerity. All right. All those characteristics ties in with integrity. All right. And then finally, modern use. Today, it means a state of being whole and undivided, applying to a consistent, honest adherence to one's moral and ethical values. Okay. So, meaning what we always say is, it's when nobody's looking, are you still keeping your moral, your morals and your values? Are you still holding them high to a perfect state? When no one's looking, are you still, keeping that integrity, keeping that form of wholeness? You see? So that's what it means. Wholeness of character. Okay? So let's keep reading. Verse 4. And Satan answered Yahweh and said, skin for skin, all that a man hath he will give for his life. But put forth thine hand now, and touch his bone and his flesh, and he will curse thee to thy face. All right? So that's that wicked spirit, the spirit of the demonic Satan, Shaitan, right? And he's always trying to attack the body, right? That's one of his MOs, is to attack the body, the men of the Lord. But remember, we have that armor, right? What is it in Thessalonians? Let me see. Yeah, this is it. 1 Thessalonians 5, and I'll start at 8. It says, but let us who are of the day be sober, putting on the breastplate of faith and love, and for an helmet the hope of salvation. For the Most High hath not appointed us to wrath, but to obtain salvation by our Lord Yahweh Shai HaMashiach, who died for us, that whether we wake or sleep, we should live together with him. Wherefore comfort yourself together, and edify one another, even as also ye do. We beseech you, brethren, to know them which labor among you, and are over you in Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, and admonish you, and to esteem them very highly in love for their work's sake, and be at peace among yourselves. So that's, showing you the brotherhood. And, that's a characteristic of the brotherhood. We should all have that integrity. Okay. Meaning being whole, being wholeness of our character should be in wholeness. Okay, not being niggas on the when you're not around the brothers, or being just a straight up menace when you're not with the brotherhood, and to esteem them very highly in love for their work's sake. So just because they're doing the work like you are. So we when we're around the brothers, and that is the sentiment and the feeling you have when you're with another brother. You might go to a different city, or a brother might visit your city, and through the Spirit, we have we have that that's that spirit of, like, man, you could just feel the wholeness of the brotherhood. It's like they're like your brothers that you never met, and you meet them, and it's like you knew him forever. And it goes back to us being with Yahweh Shai from the beginning. We were created before the foundations of the world, and we were with Yahweh Shai. We were part of the, we if we are those men of that number, we helped Yahweh Shai, set the foundations of the world, create the world, create the, when you know. Verse 14, it says, "We exhort you, brethren, warn them that are unruly, comfort them feeble-minded," or comfort the feeble-minded, meaning the weak-minded, support the weak, and patient toward all men. And does this mean towards all men of the heathen? No, these letters were always addressed to the Israelites. "See that none render evil for evil unto any man, but ever follow that which is good, both among yourselves and to all men. Rejoice evermore. Pray without ceasing," meaning don't stop praying. Stay prayed up. And we here at GMS, we stay prayed up, okay? And also integrity, when you're with the brothers, you pray, and when you're alone, brothers should be praying, right? Integrity. And let's see. "In everything give thanks, for this is the will of the Most High in Yahweh Shai HaMashiach concerning you. Quench not the spirit, despise not prophesyings, prove all things." And how do we prove all things? We do that with the scriptures, but you have to study. You have to have integrity. You can't just read the Bible when you're at the camp. No, when you're alone, that's why the elders had decreed for us to do a lesson daily. So we stay studied up, we stay prayed up, right? And we got to prove all things. So how are you going to do that if you're not studying, if you're not reading? "Hold fast that which is good, abstain from all appearance of evil, and the very Most High of peace sanctify you wholly," right? Meaning you're made whole, integrity. That's what that means. Health. Good health means you're whole. You're wholesome. You're in a whole state of wholeness. "And I pray the Most High, your whole spirit and soul and body be preserved blameless unto the coming of our Lord Yahweh Shai HaMashiach." Okay? So that's what it is. Being whole, keeping your integrity, taking care of your health. You got to be healthy both spiritually and physically, right? Consider the things you put in your body, the food you put in your body. Consider the stuff you drink, And I'm not just talking about like alcohol. I'm talking about, there's a lot of bad shit to drink outside of alcohol, and especially here in Babylon, right? So let's go back to Job 2. It says, "So went Satan forth from the presence of Yahweh, and smote Job with sore boils from the sole of his foot unto his crown." All right, so going back, in verse 3, basically the Most High is being challenged by Satan, because he's like, I'm gonna touch Job, right? I'm gonna he was trying to get permission to to afflict the forefather Job, right? He was like trying to say, yeah, I can take him out of this truth. I can take him out of this, he's going to curse you, he said, right? Let's see what happens here. It says, so went Satan forth from the presence of Yahweh and smote Job with sore boils from the sole of his foot unto his crown. And he took him a potsherd to scrape himself withal, and he sat down among the ashes. All right. So Satan attacked his health in an attempt, and this was just the beginning, right? Because we know the story of Job. We know that more things happen, but it started out with his health. Okay. And the Most High restored him, though, right? As we know the story of Job, but let's keep reading this. And it says, well, he took him a potsherd to scrape himself withal, and he sat down among the ashes, right? And just imagine that, man. Just imagine having boils even on the bottom of your feet. You can't even walk, and then they itch your back. It's all over your back, your arms. It says from the sole of his foot unto his crown, meaning he had them on top of his head. Right, and they were itching, and so bad to the point where he broke a clay pot, and he was using the pot to scratch himself. You see, taking away his health. Let me see. Let's see something real quick. Let me see a song. But, if we're going to be whole, if we're going to be made whole, holy, healthy, and keep integrity, the Most High is the one who's going to do it for us, right? Let me see what this says here. Yeah, Psalm 103:3. Let me see what. I'll start at 2. Bless Yahweh, O my soul, and forget not all his benefits, who forgiveth all thine iniquities, who healeth all thy diseases. Right? And that word disease, let's get that real quick, because that means the Elder Gabar talks about that a lot. It basically means, here it is. The word disease comes from the Old French disease, meaning lack of ease, combining the negative prefix dis with ais, meaning ease or comfort. So you lose comfort when you're unhealthy, when you're not well, when you're not whole. You lose comfort, right? And that's the same thing with this truth. When you don't have this truth, this truth is called the Comforter. So if we have comfort, and that means we're made whole, we're made holy, right? Remember, Yahweh Shai said, comfort each other with these words. And if you're, it's the opposite. Disease means your body's it's not at ease. You have a lack of ease, a lack of comfort. That's why there's a metaphor for the 2/3. They're sick, right? They're sick spiritually, right? So if your body has a disease, your body is not at ease. Your body lacks comfort. And that's why, these people around us, we look at them like they're sick because they're not at ease in their spirits, in their lives. They're all stressed out. They don't have the comforter. And just look around you. The people outside of the brotherhood, people outside of the truth, man, they're stressed out. The smallest things stress them out, And that when you're just stress alone, most people know that could make you sick. That can make you unhealthy. Stress alone is a disease. You lack comfort. So let's go back to. But Yahweh Bashim Yashai is the one who can heal all thy diseases, like it says right here. Okay? So let's go back to Job 2. We're almost done here. Verse 9, it says, Then said his wife unto him, Dost thou still retain thine integrity? Curse the Most High and die. And she would, his wife was a demon, right? And we always tell you, because the Most High, he allowed Satan to fuck with him. Just, it was basically just Yahweh was proving to Satan that, hey, this is my man. You can't mess with my elect men, right? And he was basically, putting Job through all that affliction, all that hell. He even killed his kids. All kind of things happened to Job, right? And it was all it's like a test, right? And our elders have mentioned, his wife was part of the affliction, right? His demon. Because she was over here, women stress men out. They stress their husbands out, right? You just look around. You see the men that have been married forever. The men who can do that, listen to a woman bitch at them for 50 years. You know what I'm saying? And it gets to a point where you will see the woman bitching, and the man just don't even respond. Just sits there. You see old men, their old women, old wife getting on them, and the man just sit there like she don't even faze him. That's how this place has basically, taught people to have unions and relationships where it gets to that point. If you stay with the same person for your whole life, women and men, they get grumpy as they get older, right? They don't want to deal with shit. They don't want to deal with bullshit. But you can see right here, his wife was part of his affliction, like our elders always say. The Most High let his wife, took away all his kids, took away most of his friends, right? All those type of things, but left his wife. Why? Because she was part of the affliction. Verse 9, Then said his wife unto him, Dost thou still retain thine integrity? Curse the Most High and die. But he said unto her, Thou speakest as one of the foolish women speaketh. What? Shall we receive good at the hand of the Most High, and shall we not receive his evil? And all this did not Job sin with his lips. Okay? Because remember, Job was an elect man, so he understood everything is of Yahweh B'Shem Yoshai. And when we catch hell, when we go through afflictions, and trials and tribulations, guess what? We know that's balance. That's part of it. We're not like the heathen or the 2/3 where we'll just fold, or we'll just, you curse the Most High. No, we don't do that. We're the elect, right? We're the hopeful elect. And what we do is we understand, like when we're catching hell or when bad things happen to us, evil times, right? We understand that, oh, you know what? We are sinners. At the end of the day, we know we've sinned against our God, against Yahweh. So we know that's how it is when the elect men, when we go through trials and tribulations and afflictions, or some bad shit happens, like something fucked up happens out of nowhere, you're like, damn. But guess what? What does our mind go to? We're like, all right, you know what? I know I'm a sinner. I know I did wrong. That's what we line that up with. That's a parallel that we understand. We're like, okay, balance. And here's the thing: if you're the elect, remember, we know that Yahweh B'Shem Yoshai is a balanced power. He brings the good and the evil. And if you're catching hell over and over and over, we know that the balance is going to set forth. If you're always catching hell, well, guess what? You know that the good's coming. because he's a power of balance. Okay, tells you, let's see, Proverbs 11:1. A false balance is abomination to Yahweh, but a just way is his delight. So it's delightful for him to balance things out for you, man. If you're catching hell right now, just know that, the good is coming. Just like when it makes me think of those the family, the mom and the 7 sons in Maccabees, when the Greeks were torturing them, and before they put them to death, and they put them all to death. But what were they saying? They were saying things like that, like, "Oh, I know I'm going through this because of my sins, because I've sinned against my Father in heaven," right? They knew why they were catching hell. And it's no different with us. Okay? Let's see here. And he said unto her, Thou speakest as one of the foolish women speaketh. And what does foolish mean? It means a non-believer. So it shows you that, the elect men are women. Solomon said it. Not one woman, could get this truth out of 1,000. And he said only one man would out of 1,000, which, that was just a number he was using. But the point being is the elect men are far and few in between. And a woman, there's no such thing as, there's elect women, but there's not going to be 100. The women are not numbered in that 144,000 governing body, the prophets, right? Because these women, especially in this flesh, in captivity, it's impossible for a woman or a female to grasp this knowledge in its entirety, to become a whole, have 100% truth, and receive it. So your woman, she's not going to, if you have a woman, don't expect her to be on board with this ministry. Don't expect her to be on board with this truth. You start, especially if she's raised in Babylon, we, like our elders say, we speak from experience, right? We've all had women. We've had women who we were in relationships with women, some of us when we first came in the truth, and a lot of us might be in a situation now where those women are gone. Because why? Because the truth, they didn't, it offended them, or it didn't sit well with them. They didn't trust you. They lost their trust in you, right? Because they learned about the multiple wife part, and then all of a sudden they lose trust in you because they're not set up they're not in their right mindset. They're sick, right? But they're going to be made whole in the kingdom. But right now, the majority of these people, and pretty much all the women, they're sick in the head, because how many American women do you know right now are going to be cool with you having multiple wives on this side? And the answer is probably almost zero. And that's going to change, during Jacob's trouble, when it really hits hard. But for now, we just have to be patient, okay? And it's not that we're just thinking about women, having multiple women, but it's just the facts of the matter. You're not going to have a lot of women right now that are going to be down to, be wife number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6, number 7, so on and so forth, right? But it says here, he says, shall we receive the good at the hand of the Most High, and shall we not receive evil? Because he understood the balance. In all this did not Job sin with his lips, right? So he kept his integrity. Even though he was sick, his body was at ease, not at ease. He had the boils. But guess what? His spirit was still perfect. Okay? Now when Job's 3 friends heard of all this evil that was come upon him, they came every one from his own place, Eliphaz the Temanite, and Bildad the Shuhite, and Zophar the Naamathite, for they had made an appointment together to come mourn with him and comfort him. So just to let you know, you had those dudes from Genesis a couple weeks back talking about, oh, well, Uriah the Hittite, he was a Hittite. Well, Uriah was Israelite. Remember, we've been scattered in all the lands. So when you read Eliphaz the Temanite, he was an Israelite. Okay? Bildad the Shuhite, Zophar the Naamathite. These were Israelites who were scattered in these different lands, okay? For they had made an appointment together to come to mourn with him and to comfort him. And when they lifted up their eyes afar off, they knew him not. They lifted up their voice and wept, and they rent everyone his mantle and sprinkled dust upon their heads toward heaven, because who's going to do that? Israelites. That's an Israelite custom. That's not a heathen custom. So these were not heathen men. Like you read, a Temanite is an Edomite, right? Teman. But Eliphaz the Temanite, he was scattered, and he dwelled in Teman. But he was an Israelite, okay? Because you're not going to have Edomites sprinkle dust on their heads. That's a custom of Israel. You see that? The phone chimed on that. So they sat down with him upon the ground 7 days and 7 nights, and none spake a word unto him, for they saw that his grief was very great. And remember, even though he was going through all this, he didn't lose his integrity. And also, what's that verse? Rather go to the... It's in Ecclesiastes. Would you rather go to the house of mourning? Oh shit, Salakia, hold on. You rather go to the house of mourning? Rather go to the house of mourning than the house of mirth, right? It's Ecclesiastes 7 and 2. Because why? Let's read it. It is better to go to the house of mourning than to go to the house of feasting, for that is the end of all men, and the living will lay it to his heart. Sorrow is better than laughter, for by the sadness of the countenance the heart is made better, meaning the mind. The heart is in the wise the heart of the wise is in the house of mourning, but the heart of fools is in the house of mirth. See that? So we're the ones sighing and crying. We're mourning here in Babylon, right? So, and if we're the wise, it's better to go to the heart, the house of the mourning, than the house of fools. You go to the house of fools, there's no benefit in that. There's no profit. You can't get salvation hanging out with the heart, with the house of mirth. People who are just partying it up, having a good time, not concerned about Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. But if you're dealing with the men who are whole and who are perfect in the spirit, who are sighing and crying, right? Your heart is going to be made better. Your mind, you're gonna you learn the ministry, you learn the truth if you're the elect. You see. So it's good to suffer, right? It's good to be in a low state right now. And we see our mirth is going to come in the kingdom, Let's read this. Ecclesiastes 1 and 18. For in much wisdom is much grief, and he that increaseth knowledge increaseth sorrow. Right? So when knowledge and sorrow goes hand in hand, wisdom and grief goes hand in hand. You see? So you have to suffer. Because when the elect suffers, guess what? We're going to be made better. Okay? So with that, I hope that you were edified. I want to give all the praise, all the glory, all the honor unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Kakodash. Double honors goes out to the other apostles of Great Millstone for teaching me the truth. Also, want to acknowledge all Akyam who are pushing the truth with sincerity throughout the four corners of the earth. Shalom to the elect. Shalom.